What is going on, everybody? I hope everybody's fine today. I know I'm early. I'm like 15 to 17 minutes early, but I have a reason for doing that because by the time people filter in, it's about 15 minutes into the show. So let's get it. Now, last week I did a review of a so-called doctor and his take on critical race theory, and he had a guest on, a young black man, who I don't know. You can necessarily say that he carried his own. There was an occasion where he did. There was some highlight points, but for the most part, he did not. And so what I think the guy's point was specifically to do that. I think that was his aim, was to get someone he knew that he had done some research on, that gets flustered or speaks so quickly that he stumbles over himself, or that he would consider easy prey. Now, in this particular um, video series that I was covering, this critical race nonsense, there were some things said that were, what's the word? Asinine. That's the best way I can say it. Um, Absolutely asinine. So I couldn't do it in one sit. I had to do it in multiple sittings, and so this is the second and last half of it. Um, the man, there are some people that are so intellectually dishonest and inept that you're baffled. You're just absolutely floored by their stupidity. This human being is one of them. Um, and they all share something in common, and that commonality is their condescending, better than you viewpoint of their opponent. Um, because they can't really base it on facts or base it on reality. They have to base it on their idea of themselves. And so you get what you get. So in the second half of this video now, I want to tackle the almost all of the remainder of it. Um, More so the key parts that really kind of not just discredit his viewpoint, but make him seem so slow. Slow. But he really likes to push as though as he's a rabbit really quick. So this is part two of Nobody is a Victim of CRT. Anyhow, in other words, he's calling people who CRT espouses as racist, white people, as nobody. I guess then by that same token, nobody is a victim of affirmative action then, huh? I mean, it is hiring based on race, but who cares, right? Who cares? Who really cares? So let us pick up in part two where we left off last time. And in this section, you're going to see him talking about some studies. Adam, some studies that he says he has about the disparity between whites and blacks. What you will hear, I'm just letting you know, if you catch it, here's a challenge. If you catch the problem, make sure you comment, okay? And before we continue, make sure you share this live, okay? If you don't want to watch it on Facebook in case it gets closed down, I'm on Rumble and I'm on Twitch and I'm on Instagram right now. So if you can catch the problem with what he's saying, I'll try not to mention it until he mentions the problem. And then I will take a little bit past it. I'll stop and I'll wait to see if you guys catch the problem. Okay. It's a pretty big one because it pretty much decapitates his point. Not no nearly headless Nick here. This is legit problems for him. But I want to see if you guys catch it. Okay. So let's roll that beautiful bean footage. Um, okay. Open up. Hello, sir. How are you? Nice hairline, bro. Nice, slick, real slick. Looking good. Looking good, homie. Looking good. I can't say the same for me. Nice coiffed haircut, Woo-hoo. So if you catch it, let me know. I will let you know when I'm done or it's past that point, and then I'll wait to hear, okay? Because I may stop it before because I may have to. Here we go.
Let me bring to your attention some elements in modern society that I would like you to answer without using critical race theory. Okay, let's do that. Very well. 4 years of survey data shows that Black students represent only 15% of total US students enrolled in public education, but they make up 35% of students suspended once, 44% of students suspended more than once, and 36% of students expelled. That's from the US Department of Education. They also found in their research that this disparity is not explained by more frequent or more serious misbehavior by other students, meaning their behavior was comparable to white students. However, their penalty was much more severe. Let me read you another one. And by the way, I like to always source my data. You can find that U.S. Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights. The New York City police officers were surveyed based on their stops. This was a survey after the fact. So this is not a lived experience survey. This is an actual data analytical survey. The data analytical survey showed that New York City, 88% of police stops involve Black and Latinx people, while 10% involve white people. Of those stops, 70% were completely innocent. So the data doesn't even justify them targeting Black and brown individuals. Another one, and you can find that information, New York Civil Liberties Union, stop and frisk data. Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to experience a pregnancy-related death than white women, even at similar levels of income and education and health. You can find that data, the National Partnership of Women Families study. The next one, on average, Black men in the US receive sentences that are 19.1% longer than those of white men convicted of the very same crime. You mean to tell me that I get 20% more time if I'm a Black man convicted in America than my white counterparts, and we are convicted of the same exact crime? There's another one. On average, in the US, Black individuals are twice as likely to be unemployed as white individuals with the same exact background as their white counterparts. That's another data stat. You can find that at the Poverty Action Lab.
Okay. Somebody. This is not that point yet, okay? But I do have a question. Somebody, please tell me what is the prevalent thought process in his arguments right now. I'll give the audience probably about 30 seconds to reply. What is the predominant theme of his presentation right now? Please do tell me. What do you think that possibly can be? I'm gonna wait just a little bit. Yeah. It's pretty obvious what his, it's pretty obvious, but I'm gonna give you a little bit. No takers? There is an awful lot of emphasis on race, right? Okay. Hey, Jim. Black versus white. Okay. Now, he's going to continue. Remember, his emphasis on all of the studies that he has called out is on race. Black versus white. Okay. All right. Let him continue.
I'll give you one more. One study found that job resumes with traditionally white sounding names receive 50% more callbacks than those with black sounding names. And they did this over and over again. They submitted the same education, the same experience, changed the name from Abdul to John, and all of a sudden companies started calling them back.
Because I had to stop it again. I had to stop it again because apparently Abdul is a very predominant black name. I didn't know this. I can honestly say I've only met one black Abdul in my entire life. One. But hey, apparently it's a very predominant black name. Um, yeah, so Abdul is the, but I'll tell you why he picked Abdul. So he mentioned that that particular stat came from a site called Poverty Action Lab, right? Um, Poverty Action Lab. Anyway, I want you to go bring it up. I'll bring it up later, but please go look up Poverty Action Lab. Please, for the love of God, look up Poverty Action Lab. I'll give you their mission. Our mission is to reduce poverty by ensuring that policy is informed by scientific evidence. We do this through outreach, research, and training. Nurturing the next generation of Indonesian development or economists. Remember, this particular site, okay, it's directly about minorities, in this case, blacks, right? Remember this. Remember all of this, all of it. Emphasis on black versus white, both in the children and in the work stats that he's given and the pregnancy things that he's given. All of it is rooted in the color of the person. Remember that. If you remember nothing else in his diet, just remember that point. All right, here we go.
Sir, those are dynamics of systemic bias, implicit or hyper-aggressive racism that must be examined. Tell me, how do you back engineer that? How do you examine it without the use of critical race theory?
All right. Now my boy's gonna talk. Listen carefully to what he says.
Well, first of all, so critical race theory, let's be clear about what it is, as we have been doing with this conversation. It is indeed a framework which would look at all of those things. And it wouldn't actually, what you're doing, Dr. Rich, you're actually kind of trying to interrogate a little bit. And words that wound, all of the critical race theorists, particularly Matsuda and Crenshaw and all of them who wrote that book, they're very clear that they actually presume that all racial disparities must have racist outcomes. And there is a conversation to be had about that, but it is not a conversation that can be scientifically approached if we are assuming that all racial disparities or all disparities, in any area must be racist because they are adjacent to racism. This is the flaw that I think Kendi makes how to be an anti-racist. But to answer a few of your examples, for example, the education thing where black kids are punished more at public school. Again, I think that if we look at something that is black adjacent and automatically say this is anti-black, we're endeavoring in a sort of an association fallacy.
Well, tell me, what do you think it is?
If you look at charter schools, for example, many charter schools, black Americans actually outperform their public school peers, whether it's in college readiness, whether it's in subject readiness, and also whether it's in conduct as well. But when you have people pushing charter schools and more broadly school choice in certain areas like Chicago, what happened in Chicago was the superintendent of some of the schools and the teachers unions actually went against it. You're trapping black youth into a certain environment. So you should probably, instead of just looking at race as the only factor, consider, okay, how does that particular school treat certain kinds of infractions? And how might that impact, what that individual is doing? How is that individual's home life? All I'm saying is that it's important in any given situation, not to simply look at the surface, but to do what Plato said and inquire and interrogate the relationship between knowledge and opinion and try to get as close to knowledge as possible. Critical race theory does not do that because critical race theory, as they said in Words That Wound, presumes that certain things are true without investigating them. And in my opinion, going back to the classroom, that kind of mentality has no room in a system that is meant to educate people, to mold the man, mold the woman, as the ancients would think, in a way that is going to prepare them for life.
Brother, you said a whole lot without saying much at all.
Here comes the
So let me help you here.
Which of my claims do you take issue with?
Well, the fact that you never really got to the core of how do you reverse engineer the obvious disparities that are connected to race that I just posed to you. Well, you cannot tell me. Go ahead.
Dr. Richey, I must respectfully disagree, sir. I did. I told you explicitly that we have to look at these things through a multifaceted lens,
right?
And not through a reductive, simplistic. I just gave you several examples as it related to the school thing. Mm-hmm. There are many different things that could account for the disparities in punishing, and in charter schools, in many charter schools, like those disparities just don't exist.
Just name a few, brother.
I mentioned family life. How does that particular school handle infractions? It does not have to be entirely linked to racist practices. But the problem is, Dr. Richey, critical race theory likes to see racism in terms of impact, not in terms of intent or value, or to the extent that intent or value mean anything. This is Kenny's definition.
Well, let me ask you
they must be related with impact.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that a New York City police officer or the New York City Police Department,
this is the best part,
pulling over 88% of the individuals who are black and brown, a huge disparity in how they pull over people, and not even coming up with the result of more people being arrested, 70% are completely innocent of anything. Do you not think that is systemic? You think there's something else there?
Well, so I think two things can be true at once. You could have a systemic problem without the problem being necessarily racist.
But it doesn't mean it's not racist. But let me
Dr. Rich, you're kind of moving the goalposts.
No, brother, you say it doesn't necessarily mean that it's racist, which means you have left the door open for the fact that it could absolutely be racist.
And there you go. There you go, right? He has just proven why he's pushing what he's pushing. It has nothing to do with the data being able to tell the whole story. He's using the data based on what he believes it means. It has to mean racism. Even though the young man says, I didn't say it doesn't mean that. I'm just saying it doesn't fully mean that. But the clown on the right, he already came to the survey with a preconceived notion of what the survey was meaning, because he wants it to mean that. This is what he wants. He wants it to mean that the cops, the system itself, is racist. Instantaneous guilt of everyone with no method of proving innocence at all. But it gets better. It gets so much better. So much better. Just wait.
Well, okay. Well, perhaps.
Oh, one more thing. Also, before I forget, the young man is right. There are multiple inputs to this survey. What none of them, this guy in particular, seem to kind of add in there: the crime rate in the city, who commits the crime in the city, and why they have to target a certain type. And I think I mentioned this last time. You have a certain level of crime in a city. The amount of crime that's in that city is perpetrated by a certain type of people. So, of course, I am going to target a certain type of person or people because the highest number that's committing the crime is of that type. So should I just ignore? He's not even mentioning what the crime rate in the city is, right? Not once. But he does this a lot, and you'll see him do it again in how he explains the survey. And now remember, I told you to remember something earlier. Here's why I told you to remember it.
But we shouldn't jump to that conclusion. That's my point. The point is because
why shouldn't you jump to that conclusion? Bro, the whole point of a survey is not to jump to a conclusion. It's to arrive at a conclusion. You don't skip in the middle just to get to the end that you want. That's how you jump to a conclusion, by skipping everything that you go past. When you arrive at a conclusion, you hit every marker on the way. I don't understand this man. I Okay, let me continue.
The data, when the data
The data,
shows
right?
the
Sure.
disparity based on race, why would you not? And it's not jumping to a conclusion; it's interpreting the data. Why would you not say, listen, if 3 to 4 times
Listen,
Black women who are pregnant experience a pregnancy-related death more so than white women?
this young man here poses one of the best questions to him that completely, he doesn't realize it yet, but it will completely yank his floor from under him. Just it's perfect.
With similar background, income, education, and health. Why would you not say, listen, we need to make sure we take a closer look at how we're treating Black women in this industry? Why would you not make that conclusion based on the data?
Well, again, I think our phrasing is very important. I think sometimes using the word "we" and how we are treating people kind of puts everyone on the hook. When if this is a racist problem, as you seem to believe it is, we should be looking for the actual people who are causing the problem. But back to the broader point, I do want to interrogate and investigate all of these issues, but I want to do so through a lens that is not simplistic and presumptive as critical race theory would
But I
have
would
us
love
do.
for you to present another one. So I'm asking you, brother, present another lens. Listen, critical race theory says, okay, a whole lot of bad stuff as far as disparities that happen, it can be traced back to a racist or racial core. And we have to check those things inside of our policies. You would admit that we have policies that unfairly penalize individuals of color more so than other groups. Would you not agree that we have policies like that?
So there are what you're asking, are there disparities in data? Absolutely, there's a disparities in data, but we have to investigate the disparities. Emerson made it very clear, we have to investigate what goodness is. We have to see why what is.
Right.
And I think just taking a very surface level prima facie look at the data and saying, hey, this is a racial disparity, ergo it must be
but
racist,
it is by
well, facts are important, sir, which is what, and I want to understand the facts.
So the fact is, let me just make sure we're clear. You do believe in the fact that there are racial disparities based on these institutions, right?
Well, there are racial disparities do exist in data sets 100%.
Thank you.
I want to get to why they exist. Is it because of racism? That's what critical race theorists think. I think that's a simplistic explanation to a multivariate problem.
Right.
Life is a complex phenomenon, Dr. Richey. As you would know, sir, you're a PhD. You had to go through a lot of things to get your PhD. So I think that reducing this very complex and multifaceted world and very complex and even more multifaceted human society, human interaction to one answer, because those answers have been emblazoned and sort of seen in the cultural atmosphere, is not the best thing to do. If I am wrong and these things end up being the cause of racism, actual racism, then yes, let's fight them, let's get rid of them. But I want to go back to something you said before.
Before you go there, and I will allow you to finish your thought. Critical race theory does not provide a singular answer as far as I apply critical race theory. I do understand that there are some instances where there's data, macro data, that cannot be codified in a racial dynamic. And we may not have access to that data. But what we do have, the access to the data we do have, shows clearly that an overwhelming truth is present.
Man.
And the overwhelming truth, brother, is that these disparities break down with a racial significance. And yes, you could have meaning when we talk about 3 to 4 Black women being 3 to 4 times more likely to die being pregnant than white women. Well, that breaks down to a racial issue. That's a racial disparity. That racial disparity has something at its core creating that disparity.
Okay.
You have to investigate it. You're saying that it may be something else, but I'm telling you, you got the data. At least start there is my point.
Okay, you got the data. Here we go.
If you're not willing to start with what the data has concluded, you will never get to unravel the other lenses that you're talking about. And I'm with you, brother. I get it. You're saying let's be multifaceted. Let's make sure we have various lenses in order to examine these things. And you do. You need it from an equity standpoint. You need it from a gender bias standpoint. You need it from all of that. Okay. Wait a minute. You don't believe gender bias exists?
Now, see how you
Well,
quickly change.
Dr. Richey, I didn't say
real
that.
quick. You see how quickly he just threw this little random crap in there, right? Always to deflect. He knows he's getting caught. He's rambling now, right? He wasn't rambling before. Now he got caught. The rambling has begun. And you'll see right now why this rambling took place. He is confused as hell right now. He is confused. Confucius say he is confused. And when this, now remember when I told you to remember something earlier, here it is. And there's a reason for me letting all of this go by, because I have to let you see the progression of a deranged mind. Watch.
Sir.
But you don't believe gender bias exists?
No, I didn't say
Never
that.
said that, right?
So here's what I'm trying to say, sir. So I think you did something in the course of your response there.
Of course he does.
So you said that the disparity reflects a problem, a racial problem. But as far as I can see, the line of your reasoning doesn't satisfy how that problem is racist. We haven't gotten there yet. Yes, that's correct. A racial disparity does have a context within the context of race, because it is being measured by race. So when we measured Black women and the disparity between white women, that is something that is being measured by race.
But that goes from being
something a matter of, okay, Dr. Richey, so how is it not true? If we're measuring the disparity between Black and white women in terms of pregnancy, is that not being measured by race?
No.
And
police department.
Oh my God!
More so than
that it is important to recognize the disparity exists, and we agree on that point. The disparity does exist, but it's also important to investigate the reason as to why the disparity exists, and we actually agree with that point. But when you said different lenses, you mentioned gender bias, race, equity, and Dr. Richey, respectively. I don't think that if an inspector goes into a house and just
I gotta find that section
and said that the study was disparity.
If we're measuring,
explain that.
A race being something.
So let me help you understand how this.
All right.
That's not true.
That goes to being something a matter of, okay, Dr. Richey, so how is it not true? If we're measuring the disparity between Black and white women in terms of pregnancy, is that not being measured by race?
No.
Oh, this man has a PhD, people. This fool has a PhD. I should go for my PhD. If this buffoon can make it, I'm in. I am in for sure. I am in. There ain't no stopping me now. If he could get a PhD, bro, come on, man. You spent your entire show talking about black, white. A survey says that Black women, a survey says that Black men, a survey says that Black. You're not basing a survey on race? No. Oh, how do you know they're Black then? It's just a simple question. How do you know they're Black? How do you know they're Black or white to compare Black or white if you're not checking to see if they're You know, you cannot make this stuff up. Hollywood ain't got nothing on this clown. Hollywood ain't got nothing on this fool, bro. Hollywood ain't got nothing on this man. I'm gonna let him finish. Maybe I maybe I heard wrong. I don't know. People, come on, man. Bro, come on, man. Like honestly though, come on. You got to start being at least intellectually honest at one point. You have to. You got to, man. Come on. I'll let him finish though. Let him finish.
The study
Okay,
was
so
not. So let me help you understand how the study
race is
is
a
actually
factor, though, of course, right?
race. The disparity is the outcome of the data. So let me.
The disparity is the outcome of the data. Okay. Again. I'm gonna let maybe I'm wrong again. I'm gonna let him finish again. Say one more thing.
Bring you back to the
Well,
study.
I know.
The study examined income, healthcare, as well as education.
Okay. He mentioned three things. How in those three things do you know what race if you don't input that that person was a certain race? Because if you don't, then you could make the data say anything you want about an input that you never put in. So of course it had to have race in there. But he makes sure to say that the survey never put race in there. But somehow you just know which race. When I told you that intellectually dishonest, intellectually dishonest. Intellectually, or just plain stupid. I don't know which one. He could be both. He could be both. I'll let him dig a hole further.
And we're
I don't
sorry
want to go
about the
that way.
technical.
I want to go back. Why you go that far, man? Come on. Let him
Those
continue.
are non-racial elements. That's what
Right.
the study examined. The study with the New York
Yes,
City
sir.
Police Department, it only examined the number of arrests, the number of stops, and the number of citations.
No mention of race, right? Okay, good.
It did not study it from a racial context.
This guy.
U.S. Black
Now I
individuals
want you to
are
watch what
twice as likely
happened.
to be under
Watch
the
what they
number of
do.
arrests, the number of stops, and the number of citations. It did not study it from a racial
Watch.
context. U.S. Black individuals.
He edits the video. He edits the video. I have no idea what took place in that time frame. I wish I knew. You mean to tell me you did a survey? You never mention race in part of the survey. You don't look at race at all in the survey. But somehow, after the survey is done, you can get a racial profile out of it? Is that how surveys work now? Wait, so you can input that of a green pencil and a blue pen, right? They're obvious, right? So, one and two writing utensils are pens. And that's the only survey I take. One and two writing utensils are pens. The survey is handed in. Someone comes to analyze the survey and they say, you see, most pens are blue. But, sir, we didn't put that in the data. We never mentioned anything about the color of the pen or the pencil. How did you get that the pen is blue? You see how stupid he sounds? On paper, it says one of every two writing utensils are pens. Hand you the survey. You never saw the two people I looked at to get that survey. You never saw the two things I looked at to get that survey. You take the survey from me. You get on your show. In a survey done, it says that one and two writing utensils are blue pens. Either you're lying by adding that piece, or the survey checked to see what color the pen was. These people will lie about the most basic things to try and push their narrative. The most basic. Doesn't even have to be big. Just basic. Watch him.
Individuals are twice as likely to be unemployed than white was a measure, once again, of experience work-wise, education, and also age was put in that variable.
You can tell he's lying. You can tell because you can see him trying to say, what should I mention and not mention? You can see him trying to make sure he doesn't say, and they ask the race. What they also never mentioned in this so-called survey, how many of the black brothers went to apply for work? When the guy said there is multifacets to it, this is part of that multifaceted approach. Do not be intellectually dishonest like this clown people. Don't do that. Don't do that. I'll let him finish this one point.
Variable. And it showed that blacks are less likely to be unemployed, more likely to be unemployed than their white counterparts. Now, none of those studies contextualized in the variable race.
So how in the world did you get that they were black or white if you never asked the question? It's obviously then an assumption on your part, you absolute moron. You have, okay, I'm going to take myself out of the frame. This is the face of a fool. This right here. The face of a fool. How can you be this dishonest?
Contextualize everything else and said, but the outcome, the disparity, happens to have this amazingly unequal racial conclusion.
Okay, well, we can agree that race is indeed involved in understanding the disparity as a whole, right? We can agree on that premise. Okay,
when he just said it wasn't. So you see how now he has to understand to himself, look, in order for me to make this pass, I have to at least tell the truth a little bit. They had to include race. They had to. They had to. And for you to be pushing it as one of the top reasons, either it was the basis of the review or it was one of the top two things as opposed to the bottom hidden under the third and fourth reason.
Very good. All right. So when we go beyond that, though, you said a few moments ago, and we kind of have gone a lot of different ways.
I want to go forward here.
Of the world
I want to hear what his closing remarks.
So let me push back a little bit on that. And by the way, I appreciate you being on the show.
I'm happy to be here.
There are multiple theories that coexist. Some of them actually overlap. Grounded theory, one of the theoretical constructs that I used for actually my second doctorate. I use grounded theory. That's not the only theory that I would subscribe to, right? Okay. To explain or analyze or compare data. And now you have to look at it from two.
But you admit that you have it as part of your data structure. When just before, you're telling someone that was not part of the data set. So you're intellectually lying. You are a dishonest human being. You can't make up your mind which path you want to pick. You can't make it up because, one, you want to seem as though you're inclusive when you know for a fact that you're approaching the data with a pre-drawn conclusion already in mind. It is that simple.
Two data concepts: qualitative comparison, which is your social comparison, and then quantitative comparison, which is your analytical research numbers heavy comparison. We're looking at this data through those comparative models. And when you look at the data through those comparative models, you're not starting with a racial core. You're ending with a
No one said you started with a racial core. In fact, you were the one that was assuming it was. Because that's how you ended. in your first 15 minutes of your show, that's where you went.
Disparity conclusion, but you're not starting with a race dynamic. Now, here's what I hear you saying.
Do you see how he doesn't know what words are? I'll let you hear that one more time.
Comparative models. You're not starting with a racial core. You're ending with a race disparity conclusion, but you're not starting with a race dynamic. Now, here's what I
hear it again.
And then quantitative comparison, which is your analytical research numbers heavy comparison. We're looking at this data through those comparative models. And when you look at the data through those comparative models, you're not starting with a racial core. You're ending with a race disparity conclusion, but you're not starting with a race dynamic. Now, here's what I hear you saying. I hear you telling me that it could be
you can't make
race.
You can't make
it's on the table. That could be one issue. But you're saying it could also be other issues as well. So here's what I propose to you, brother. Because I've read what you have placed out there on social media. And I think you're doing the conversation a disservice because you know that critical race theory should be included in the lexicon of theoretical frameworks or even practical analysis.
Why should he? Okay, I'm done with this fool, man. I'm gonna lock him off for a minute. I gotta talk to you guys directly. When I told you at the beginning that this man had a preconceived notion about the outcomes of the things he picked, this is what I meant. He doesn't leave any room for critical race theory to be left out of anything. It has to be included. There's no choice, has to be. You know it has to be, because racism. Then turns around next 5 minutes. Look, I'm not saying that. Man, look, you mentioned race the whole damn time. All you talked about was the race inequality here and the race inequality there and the race this, black women, black children, white males, black males. And then when the guy says it can't all be about race, well, no race was ever discussed in the actual, data structure. It just showed up. You cannot get something if you didn't put the quality in. Look, if I'm trying to figure out if my black behind is being left behind for white people, you know what I need to check and see? How many white people with the qualities I have and qualifications I have got the job that I applied for instead of me. Now, if I just put my qualifications, my qualities, no race, all I can say is on paper, their qualities were picked over mine. Because I cannot say they were white because that was never asked. If I am black and I'm trying to find out if it was because I was black or at least draw some sort of a slight conclusion, you know what I have to ask? Was the guy that took the job white? Was he Asian? Was he Hispanic? Was he non-black? Because if he was non-black and had the exact same credentials as I did and he got the job, I can then at least slightly say it was minorly because I was black. Even then, I cannot say absolutely it was because I was black. Because at the end of the day, it's a choice of the employer. And unless you ask the employer, did you or did you not do it because he was black? And you cannot bank on anyone to be that honest, which means you will never know. But do not for once try to lie to me. Do not once try to lie to me to make me believe that you never asked the people in this survey whether they were black or white to come to your conclusion that blacks were disproportionately put down over whites. Do not hand me that bag of BS and expect me to swallow it whole. Ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen. Nope. I am not that stupid. I ain't that blind. He's an intellectually dishonest man if he's even got any intellectuality about him. The man is dumber than a sinking box of rocks. He speaks a good game. I don't know how the hell he got his degrees, but I'm convinced that it has to be based on like Operation the Game, or he played Dr. Mario or something. Ain't no way that man got a degree in anything using his brains, because he don't got none. There's stupid, and then there's that dude. But moreover than anything else, he is intellectually dishonest. And he spent so much in that whole thing that he didn't even know where he was coming or going by the end of it. The young man ran circles around him on certain points. Yeah, he had a point where he ran it too much and he was kind of getting flustered in his conversation, but his points were sound. You cannot derive a outcome in a manner that you didn't ask a question. So in other words, I cannot get something out of something if I didn't put even partially some of the things I got on the outside in it. It won't happen. I can't make a fruit cake and put only vegetables in it and then say, see, it tastes like banana. No, because I didn't put no bananas in it. Oh, see, look, I found, look, a blueberry, but you didn't put any blueberries in it. That's not a blueberry. But I called it a fruit cake. Yeah, you called it a fruit cake, but that's not a fruit cake. But the survey said that it's a cake. The survey said that it had ingredients in it. Yeah. So you tell me the survey didn't ask about what kind of ingredients? I'm pretty sure it was a fruit cake. That's the level of stupidity they're working with. Look, the amount of people today that call themselves the black leaders, you want to know why? You want to know why black children are so inept at reasoning anymore? Because they listen to idiots like that guy. Because they come at things hearing something in the street and they run with it their whole life. White people hate me. Cops hate me. Headlong. They never stop to ask a single question at all about whether or not what they believe is true. But it riles up emotions, and that's what they go with headlong. And then when bam, they hit a wall, you see, and they prove their point because they're a self-fulfilling prophecy, you know, because you hate something and you go headlong angry into it, and then it retaliates and says, see, it hates me. So now they got their point across, right? They win. No, you lose. Because you prove nothing. You prove absolutely nothing. You did nothing to prove anyone wrong or right. Understand that. People like Dr. Richey, it even irks me to say the doctor before his name. People like that guy do not have truth at heart. They have narrative at heart, and they have their own biased agenda at heart. Period. Point blank. And they do it because they know they can get away with it. And they speak passionately about it so that they can get people on their side who are already emotionally invested in an issue. Do not get suckered into this. Please, people, don't get suckered into this. You need to start learning to do your own research about things. Because in so doing, you will understand the greater picture and you'll start seeing exactly what right and wrong is. So, that will conclude my dark, abysmal journey into the mind of Dr. Richey. That vacant, empty parking lot. That abyss. That absolute black hole. But he works for the Young Turks, so what can you expect? What can you expect? Nothing more. Anyhow, I hope you guys can look at this in the manner it was intended, which is to try and shake you out of this mindset that people have and this trend of thought that's going around where you just listen, take it, run with it, don't do research, make sure. And even if what I'm saying, look at what I'm saying in a critical light too. You don't have to agree with anything I say. You don't have to like anything I say. It's my opinion, but not only my opinion, it's my researched opinion. But if you can disprove what I'm saying, feel free to do it. If you can't, however, then it holds up to scrutiny now, doesn't it? Challenge everything. challenge everything. If you don't challenge it, you're doing ill to yourself, not me. Let's put it like that. You're doing your own self a disservice, not just me. Okay? So, my next live will be on tomorrow. It'll be tomorrow. Same time, around 5 o'clock. And I will be talking about this Afghan, because I checked today to see, ironically, what the Trump administration was going to be doing about Afghanistan. You know what? You know what I found? The first 20 to 30 loadouts of my search were all articles written about what Trump was going to do in Afghanistan, written when? Today. I found one article from back in 2020. All other articles were written today or yesterday. Ain't that something? All of them talking about the Trump administration because they know people were going to look. They knew people were going to look it up. Nearly every article was about what Trump was going to be doing, and none of them were written at the time except for one that I saw. Majority of them today, yesterday. Ain't that something? All rewrites. Ironically, all of them seem to have the same exact. When I show you, it'd be like almost like they wrote off the same paper. Almost like they wrote off of the same paper, like a great big cheating class. Find that weird. Anyway, we'll discuss that tomorrow. We will get to the sweet sauce of that tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that. So anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. I hope that your rest of your night goes really well. Don't forget to still go check out my other platforms and share this if it did anything for you emotionally, intellectually. Please be sure to check it out. And again, as usual, wisdom calls to you from the street. Find wisdom. Peace.